Mike barely had time to get
Queen Casino presenting cutting-edge comedian Dane Cook June 16th. Tickets at emeraldqueen.com. And by your local Ford stores. Some late afternoon baseball on the south side of Chicago. Today it is game 2, the middle game of this 3-game series. The Mariners and the Chicago White Sox. Well, Mike, you know, when you talk about Mariners baseball right now, you talk about this lineup of the offense and how red hot it has been at times this season. You have to talk about Mitch Haniger, who has simply been sensational. Now a home run in 4 consecutive games.
He's as hot as it gets, and I know Scott Service was talking about it today. You never know how long these things are going to last, but he'd like for it to last a little bit longer. But he's really been swinging the bat well.
Well, you take a look at how this started on Friday night. Of course, it all began in Arlington, Texas to begin the road trip.
Yeah, and for him, This is Moncada right here. He had a big night last night. He was a hit away from the cycle as you take a look at the triple that he hit earlier in the ball game. And again, last night for the Chicago White Sox, ended up with 18 hits. It's a tough night overall for the pitchers. But Moncada, somebody that they really like a lot, the second baseman for Chicago, has a lot of power, and you can see the exit velocity for him consistently, 105 to 110. And here's a home run. This was just a line drive. So they'll have to be careful with him this afternoon. Mariners certainly aware of who he is now and what he's been able to do. See 112 as far as the exit velocity launch angle at 22 degrees.
Our Built for Baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. Had a couple of chances to get the single. It did not work out for Moncada, but Mitch Haniger has been fantastic. Home runs in 4 consecutive ball games so far this season. A chance for 5 today.
Yeah, and we're hoping that he will get there. And it's a short list when you start getting to the range of hitting 4 or 5 in a row. And for Mitch, he's really swung the bat well. This is the dead center field. This home run actually tied the game up late. So he had some clutch home runs also. And this went deep into the stands and left. Really staying more towards the center, left center to right center for Mitch. He has power to all fields, and he certainly has shown that again. You see this one back out to center field over the 404 mark. And then, of course, in yesterday's game, we were wondering if he was going to make it 4 in a row. Well, he did. 97 miles an hour, hits it up into the seats. His 8th home run on the year.
Okay, so how does this fit into Mariners history, recent history? In fact, you take a look this year, home runs in 4 consecutive games. Last year, Nelson did this exact same feat. You go back to 2015, he did it twice, home runs in 5 consecutive games. And of course, the franchise record and tying the all-time Major League record, the kid, Ken Griffey Jr., home runs in 8 consecutive games. Something to shoot for. We've got more coming up. First pitch, it's the Mariners and the White Sox on the south side of Chicago. Now, some Mariners fans have made the trip here to the south side of Chicago. We've got late afternoon baseball, the middle game of this 3-game series. The Mariners and the Chicago White Sox. Game 1 going to the Southsiders last night. Mariners trying to even the score today behind red-hot Mitch Haniger and Marco Gonzalez up on the bump here for Game 2 as we take a look at the Mariners starting lineup.
Our starting lineup's brought to you by Jack in the Box, and D. Gordon going to lead things off. Then it'll be Gene Segura. Segura 1 for 2 last night. Was on base a couple of times, a double and an RBI. Mitch Haniger, we've all talked about it, going for his 5th day in a row with the home run. Mike Zunino, his first couple of hits last night, including his first home run.
How about 6'8" Chris Volstad?
Average fastball around 91 miles an hour. He's going to try to sink the ball. Pretty good curveball and a changeup to go with it. You can see the 4 appearances. This will be his first start. A 4.7 ERA and 7 2/3, 7 strikeouts, 3 walks. Opponents hitting .310 against him. And a look at the defense. Trace Thompson will be out in right field. Avisel Garcia, and last night was injured, went on the disabled list, so Thompson's going to get some playing time. Omar Sanchez will be the third baseman. He was the DH last night, and Wellington Castillo will do the catching.
On away D, showing bunt, pulling back for ball 1. Quick shot to Abreu. 2 pitches into the ball game. First out. Kind of a funny start time today. 4:10 we are underway local time. This is right in the middle of a long string of games for the Mariners on this road trip that are all beginning at slightly different times. This is odd that it's kind of in between like this.
And whoever set the time, they were not a major league hitter, because right now you have the shadows out in front of home plate. So for the first few innings, it's going to be difficult to hit.
Strike 1 of the knees to Segura.
One of the strange things this first month of April, we consider the weather this year been unusually bad. A lot of cancellations, and then the start times, they're all over the place, especially on this road trip with the Mariners. They'll come back with a 1 o'clock game tomorrow, fly to Cleveland at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. It's kind of all over the place.
A little bit warmer today, 59 degrees at first pitch. Still nothing at 2 on Segura. Safe to say, Mike, that every big league ball player, if they could, they'd play every game at 7:10.
I don't think they mind the 1 o'clock games either.
Okay.
I think it's those in between starts. Really, because you get used to the 1 o'clock, even though you might do it once or twice a week, and of course the 7 o'clock games. But when they have these midday, most of them probably weren't sure what to do when they got up this morning.
Sure.
You know, and started talking to some of the guys today, and they were a little bit disappointed because you mentioned it's going to be close to 60 degrees and a nice day here in Chicago. And you know, this is one of the towns that most of the guys enjoy visiting, and they would rather be 1 or 7 so that at least they could walk around and maybe have lunch somewhere, or play 1 o'clock and go out and have dinner.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Segura with 1 out here in the first.
I think the most part, and you and I have talked about it a lot so far this year, is they just want to get into their routine, and it's difficult to do that.
Strike 3 called. First strikeout for Volstad. That brings up Cano.
Or Volstad mentioned his fastball at 91 miles an hour, but he'll throw it a lot, right around 65% of the time. As a curveball and a changeup, primarily it will be his curveball.
They have the shift on for Robbie. If you want to get to the nitty-gritty on the numbers for Cano, only 35% of balls in play for Robbie to the pull side this year.
And we've talked about that. It's surprising to see the way the defenses have set up, and they're not all the same. There have been a number of clubs so far this year that are going to play him to the pull side, to the outfield straight up.
Here comes the 1-1. Right over the heart of the plate. Rick Renteria in charge of this White Sox rebuild. Chicago winning last night in Game 1. Of course, it was on the north side before coming here to the south side. Through the shift. How about that for Cano?
Well, he continues to hit the ball hard. Came into the game hitting .324 with a couple of home runs, but he squares it up. Pretty good sink to that fastball. Mentioned it with Volstead. He's going to try to keep the ball on the ground if he can. Robbie hits it through the defense.
Meanwhile, there's some guy in the analytics room here in Chicago saying, well, see, I told you. That's what I said would happen. Robbie aboard with 2 outs for Nelson Cruz. Gets that call, lower outside corner, strike 1. They have the shift on for Nelson. Now towards left center. Engel, the center fielder, is there to end the inning. That'll take us to the bottom of the first. Many thoughts and prayers, not only in Seattle and Chicago, but all over baseball. And of course, with Danny Farquhar. Middle game of the series here in Chicago. Marco Gonzalez up on the bump, making start number 5 on the campaign, coming off a strong start against the Houston Astros. So look at this White Sox lineup.
White Sox hitting .241 as a team. Tim Anderson going to lead things off. He leads the team with 8 stolen bases. Jose Abreu 4 for 5 last night with a couple of home runs. Yohan Moncada showed him earlier a single shy of the cycle.
So Anderson moved up in the order today for the White Sox. Marco's first pitch on the afternoon, missing outside for ball 1. Lined into left field, base hit. Anderson aboard.
And we'll take a look at the defense. Gamble getting the start in left field. D. Gordon out in center. Kyle Seager, Daniel Vogelback on the corners, and Mike Zunino will do the catching. We'll look at Marco Gonzalez. This will be his 5th start on the year. 16 2/3. He has 19 strikeouts. Again, 8 of them in his last outing against Houston. You look at Chicago and their ball club hitting just .213 against left-handed pitching. So hopefully a good matchup for Marco. Fastball 92 miles an hour. Has a cutter, a curveball, and a changeup to go with it. His change is his best pitch.
First pitch strike to Sanchez.
And it would be nice if he gets that pitch throughout the day, right at the bottom of the strike zone on the corner.
Through 4 starts, I don't know how many people would have thought that Marco would have more strikeouts than innings pitched, but that's exactly how the numbers look right now. 19 strikeouts, just under 17 innings worth of work for Gonzalez. You mentioned the 8 strikeouts, nearing a career best for him against the Astros back at home.
And that was in 4 2/3. I thought it was interesting. I spoke to Scott Service before his last outing and asked him about Marco and some of because he was struggling. Asked him about it. And he said that he talked to him and he wanted him to use all of his pitches right away. Sometimes pitchers, they'll save a pitch maybe for him. He didn't want to show his changeup first time through or his curveball. Scott wanted him to use everything just to get through the first couple of innings and settle in, and that's exactly what we saw.
Now Marco was talking to us yesterday about the effectiveness of his curveball in that last start, and I looked it up, Mike. I'm going to believe it. He threw far and away. Now we're only talking 4 starts. A season high 21 curveballs in that last start.
He actually threw his curveball more than his changeup, which is unusual. But the thing that I liked about it is when he used his curveball. And for the most part,
this finds left field once again. Back-to-back singles.
Looked like it was on the cutter. And this will be right on the inside corner. A couple of base hits through the left side of the infield. Cut fastball, trying to get it in on his hands. But with his curveball, a lot of times if he missed with his fastball, he was able to come back with his curveball and steal a strike early in the count and then use his changeup later in the count. So I thought it was a nice combination for him, and was able to get through the lineup a couple of times against a very good Houston ball club.
Two men on for Abreu.
We mentioned 4 2/3 in that outing. He threw 79 pitches, 52 strikes, so a lot of strikes from him, but they were quality strikes. I asked Scott when Scott was talking about him using all his pitches. He said, "Look, you don't have to worry about getting through the lineup 3 times. It's at least 2 times for us." And it was exactly 2 times through the lineup with Houston, and Scott Wynn pulled him out of the ball game. And I think there are a number of reasons for that. One, Marco was having a very good outing, and he wanted to stay that way. You had Springer come to the plate, who can hit home runs off a left-handers fairly easy, and so I think there was a time there. And plus, through their conversation, it was 2 times through. Today, there are no limitations. If he's throwing the ball well, he'll leave him out there for 100.
Back to second. Anderson caught in between. Now this is just like last night, right? They say Anderson's safe. Now Sanchez in between. Cano, where's he going to go? Back to Anderson. Seager the tag. Anderson out after all. That was fun.
It ended up working out perfectly. Not quite textbook, but it worked out perfect. Get the lead runner and have the other one go back to first base.
He would
I was looking around too. It was well timed, the pickoff. Robbie sneaks in there. It's a timing play for him. It's perfectly timed to get Anderson. Kyle running him all back. And once he leaves the base, that's Anderson's base, so he's safe.
Well, of course this is happening again today.
Of course. It all worked out.
Abreu pops this foul. We'll go back over for a look. So they wipe away the leadoff single to Anderson. Abreu pretty locked in recently. 7-game hitting streak. Count goes to 0-2 against him. And once again, for those of you scoring at home.
Yes.
Hello, Dave and Rick.
Yep.
Hope you're doing well. 1-4-5, 3-4-5. Just like they worked on in the backfields. One out and one on. And the 1-2. And on the hands
Rick and Dave are both doing well. A text message from Dave today, and he was in the courtyard enjoying the day. Nice weather back home. Why not?
Well, it's only perfect back home, it looks like.
Yeah.
Seager quickly gets rid to Cano on to first in time for the double play. Gonzalez faces the minimum despite a couple of singles. We go to the second. The 5th for 90s night when the Mariners host the Angels. Enjoy the sights and sounds of the decade, plus the first 10,000 fans receive this one-of-a-kind James Paxton Fanny Pack. Join the fun by picking up your tickets by simply going to Mariners.com. That should be a fun night. Seager, Haniger, Gamble due up here in the Mariners second.
Kyle was 1 for 4 in last night's ball game. Had a double down into the right field corner.
Lower outside corner for strike one. Now for the White Sox, their rotation's in a bit of a mess after the announcement yesterday that they were putting Miguel Gonzalez on the disabled list. They've had a bit of a trickle-down effect. Carson Fulmer having to be moved up a day, pitching in last night's game. It was Fulmer who was scheduled to pitch today. Now Volstead making the start this afternoon. Only his 4th major league start since 2012. There's Fulmer from last night. Pitched very well. Former first-round draft pick out of Vanderbilt. And for Volstead, you go back since 2012, fewer than 40 big league innings. Spent some time in Korea. He's been in the minor leagues, of course. He's been there this year with AAA Charlotte. Two and two. A lot of shifting for the White Sox early on today. No surprise against Kyle.
Saw Kyle on the second strike. He was really aggressive on a fastball that was at the top of the strike zone. Probably part of their game plan today. We mentioned it with Volstead. He's going to sink the fastball, wants to keep the ball on the ground. And he can also use his curveball at the bottom of the strike zone. So they're going to look for something up in the zone, take advantage of it. Kyle fouling it straight back.
Softly trickles out to Anderson. Swung over the shift. There's that number 1. In steps Mitch Haniger, a 6-game hitting streak, but more impressively has homered in 4 consecutive games. And he's on an absolute tear. 11 hits his last 23 at-bats. 8 of those 11 hits for extra bases.
Scott was talking about hitting streaks, and not just for Mitch, but just players in general. As you take a look at Mitch and what he's been able to do, hitting home runs in 4 straight games. Of course, Nelson Cruz the last time. Also 5 games in a row in 2015, of course, Junior with the 8. But he's talking about just hitting streaks in general and not necessarily hitting the ball out of the ballpark, just consistent hitting, which Mitch has been. He's been hot. Batting average, by the way, .324 at the start of the game. But he said he thinks that you have to have a consistent routine as far as your workout goes and the things you do on a daily basis. And he thinks that Mitch, for a young player at this level, is as consistent as anybody.
I mean, based on how guys talk about Mitch, he seems almost robotic in his routine.
Might see more robots down there with those kind of numbers, right?
Only Didi Gregorius, after tremendous start, shortstop for the Yankees, has driven in more in the league. More in the game, period. They say that it goes. Second strikeout.
This is going to be on a curveball, it looked like, that's down out of the strike zone. And we mentioned the shadows earlier. Probably by the end of this inning, the guys should be okay, but it's difficult to pick up the spin.
Two up, 2 down to the second. It brings up Ben Gamble.
Moving up in the lineup. Ben had been hitting 9th. He's going to hit 7th today.
Gamble still just 13 at-bats so far this season after beginning the year in the DL. A double and a triple. That's 2 hits so far. Nubs it foul to make it 1-2. Well, the Mariners hoping at some point today they will see that soft underbelly that has been the White Sox pitching staff so far this year. Some very difficult numbers. Fulmer spectacular last night, though. Of course, helped out by tremendous offense.
It was something that we talked about during the game, and Scott Service mentioned it in his post-game remarks. Get a struggling pitcher out there and give him a lot of run support early. He's going to be more aggressive with his fastball, which you would think is easier to locate, and that was certainly the case last night.
Volstad with his 3rd strikeout through 2 innings. We go to the bottom of the second. Marco Gonzalez faced the minimum in the first despite a couple of base hits. Now faces former Mariner Wellington Castillo up on the order today. Batting cleanup. At the shift on for him. He looks at ball one that was close. Marco Gonzalez making his first career start against the White Sox. Has not faced many of these hitters at all. Wellington Castillo taking on Marco Gonzalez today by AARP. Just 5 at-bats, a couple of singles is driven into. That's about the bulk of it in terms of guys inside the White Sox dugout has seen Marco.
And that was enough to get him in the cleanup spot today.
Marco's 2-2. Shot foul.
I thought it was interesting today, and we've talked a lot about the bullpen, and they've really pitched well. And LeBlanc ended up pitching a lot yesterday. But I think if you look at the starters, and for Scott Service, he was talking about it today, that they haven't been able to get anybody to get deep in the game. I think the last one was Felix last inning where somebody pitched deep into a ball game. It was just hit out to left. And I asked him, you know, what's going on with that? Why is that? And they talked about it. He goes, well, you know, because I told him, you know, there's reasons for everything. And we obviously talked about Mike last night. He just had a bad night. And he'll get past that, no problem. But the one thing he pointed to is he said, as far as our rotation goes, batted balls in play, they're around 350, which was really high, and he expects that to even out. He also said, you know, and they have to make better pitches, and maybe we have to move our defense around a little bit too. But I thought it was interesting that it was that high on the ball in play.
Well, especially given how aggressive the Mariners are in shifting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's where they're at. And he thinks it's going to change. It'll even out. But he thinks it's just, you know, a bad run for them right now.
Speaking of the shift, they have it on for Davis in the DH. We might need Jesse Smith of the Mariners analytical department. Jesse, we need an email stat. We need to know. I'm very curious about what the batted or the average on balls in play would be with the shift on as well.
Well, and I think the one thing for myself is you start to look at it and you see these things going on, and the guy's not getting deeper in the game, and you know you start to wonder and look for answers. Well, that's a pretty good one right there, and I think, you know, you still try to work on things and make a better quality pitch and maybe tweak the defense a little bit, but eventually they're going to start hitting the ball at somebody. And one of the things that I saw was with Pazos the other day. He really threw the ball well, but if you think about it, the ground balls and everything, most of it was softer contact, but it was right at players too,
sure,
which certainly helped. So you have to have some of that.
Zunino having to track this down quickly. Long throw, no chance at it. Now Z asking if I got any piece. And apparently did not. So Davidson down at first base despite the strikeout.
Well, we'll take a look at it. We mentioned his curveball, and that's exactly what that is. And it's rare to see Mike not be able to make the catch. That'll probably be a pass ball, a rare pass ball for him. Let's take another look at our Primero Supremo in the swing right off the end of his glove. Pretty good curveball.
Yeah, they're going to mark that down as the first wild pitch this year for Marco Gonzalez. Yoan Moncada last night, the man who fell just a single shy of the cycle. Picked up his first 3 hits in his first 3 at-bats. White Sox last night snapping their 7-game losing streak. 10 runs, a season high 18 hits. Marco behind 3-0. Now for the White Sox, they open up their season feeling pretty okay about themselves. They won their first 2 games against the Kansas City Royals, who, by the way, today get Salvador Perez back from the disabled list because of the knee injury. Ended up winning 3 of their first 5 games. And that was close. 2 on, 1 out. First walk of the day for Gonzalez.
Well, Marco was able to get out of the first inning with a double play ball started by Kyle Seager. Trace Thompson came into the game yesterday and has the start today. Avisel Garcia, the starting right fielder, pulled a hamstring yesterday and went on the disabled list, so he's going to get some playing time now.
Garcia, a big part of this White Sox lineup, they'll have to be without for a while. First pitch strike.
Yeah, Garcia hit .330 last year with 18 home runs.
You just look at his build. He's obviously, I mean, he's built like Miguel Cabrera.
Yes, he is.
You don't think of a guy like that hitting .330. Think about a guy like that swinging for the downs every time up. All-star season for the first time for Garcia last year. 0-2. Davidson at second, Moncada at first for the White Sox. 1 out. Strike 3 called. Lower outside corner. Good pitch by Marco Gonzalez.
Perfect pitch. Right on the outside corner at the knees, able to get the call. We thought that would be a big key in the game today. Mike Estabrook, the home plate umpire, looks like he's going to call the low strike.
In steps Larry Garcia. Swinging through a curveball. We first saw Garcia years ago when he broke into the big leagues with the Rangers, was then traded over to Chicago. Still 2 on now with 2 outs. Cuts right through a fastball. The 1-2 from Gonzalez. Ties him up. Curveball finishes off the inning. 3 strikeouts to the second for Marco Gonzalez. Back 1901, Mike. The first American League game ever played. White Sox defeating the Indians 8-2. Commissioner Manfred would have loved the pace of play. 90 minutes.
90 minutes.
TOG. Apparently not as many commercials between innings back then. Here's Zunino.
And Mike, same program as last night. And all of his at-bats, he was going to go up there and he was going to take a strike. It worked out well for him. Ended up 2 for 4 with his first home run.
Now, this is not just isolated to Mike, but you think about Mike a year ago and a lot of young hitters early in their career. What young hitter can afford to take a strike?
Well, and it's something that Scott Service was talking about today. As he said, you know, where Mike is at now, because he has a couple of things that he can go back on, and that when he gets that first strike and he can afford to take it. And what he's doing is he's trying to slow the game down and see the ball a little bit better. And so that he's really relaxed when he's taking that first strike, and a lot of hitters will do that. But he said the thing that he said today, he said, to your point, he said a year ago there was some panic. There is no panic in him now. Doesn't mean that he won't strike out.
Anderson in shallow left. Shortstop completes the throw for out number 1. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Seattle Mariners and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Seattle Mariners. He may still strike out. That is inevitable.
Yeah, that's going to happen from time to time. I thought he said something that was interesting, though, and you'll hear hitters talk about this. That sometimes things will click for them because they get a walk, or they had an at bat where they saw a lot of pitches. And Scott Service was talking about it, and Edgar with Mike, as they said that for him, if he's fouling the fastball straight back, then he's in a good spot. It's when he swings and misses early in a count. Mechanically, things are a little bit out of whack. So that's something you can watch with Mike, and I think that is true. And we saw that last night. He actually had a strikeout in his last at bat, but there were a number of pitches that were fouled straight back to the screen, and it looked as if he was going to take the ball to right center because that's where it was pitched. And so for me, and I said it last night, those are good swings. Just didn't work out for him in that particular at bat, but over the course of time, it pays off for him, and we saw that last year.
No Ray-Bans for Edgar today. Maybe tomorrow, earlier start time.
Shadows.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
2 balls and a strike to Vogelback. Make it 3-1. Daniel batting 9th today for the Mariners. To the point of the shift, Moncada, the second baseman. A couple of ground ball outs to begin this top of the 3rd.
We talked about Volstad and his ability to keep the ball on the ground. Everything has been a strikeout or a ground out except for one hitter, and that was Nelson Cruz, who flew out to center. We're talking about Mike, and it's hitters in general taking pitches early in counts. Maybe they'll just do it for their first at bat. Mike did it in every at bat last night. And I was asked, well, when you do that, aren't you giving something up? And you are, but I think you're gaining more from it because he's not going to do that all year. He's trying to get himself into a place where he can slow the game down. Sometimes hitters will come to the ballpark if you're a right-handed hitter and make a decision that you're just going to hit everything to right field and then start to work your way back around, probably because you're pulling off the ball. And typically you're going to give away a couple of at-bats to do that, but the benefit is that hopefully you can get back on track faster and you know yourself and what you're trying to do.
So this is just a for now thing from what you're saying.
Yeah.
1-1. Now 2 pitches ago for D. I'll pass. Fully in the shadows now.
Which was not the case in his first at bat. Hit him on the elbow. They hit him on the elbow with a curveball.
D aboard at first base with 2 outs for Segura. We'll take a look. That's why it's there.
And 2 outs. We'll see if he tries to steal early.
9 steals and 10 tries for D. Strike 1 to Segura. Gina strikeout looking on a fastball back in the first.
Pretty good lead for D over at first base.
Fouled off to make it 0-2. Think about one of the all-time great base stealers in franchise history. Mike, I did not know until you told me the vertical leaping ability of Julio Cruz.
It was amazing. A lot of middle infielders, they pride themselves on base runners that slide into them, and it's not as bad anymore because you're limited in what you can do. But they would take a lot of pride in not letting base guys touch them at all. And Julio Cruz would just jump over the top of them. It was amazing. And he could really steal a base, drop down a bunt. Very good player.
He was the first to incorporate combine drills into his offseason workouts.
Something like that. The Cruiser, good player.
An original Mariner.
Well, played for Chicago also. The
That's
White
right.
Sox.
There goes deep. Nope. Right to Anderson. Shortstop's throw on target to complete the inning. D, who's hit by the pitch, is left stranded out of the bottom of the third. And by Virginia Mason Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Plenty of sunshine here in Chicago today, the middle game of this 3-game series. To the bottom of the third we go. Adam Engel leads things off, number 9 hitter for the White Sox. Looks at a first pitch curve from Marco for a strike. A little bundled up in the shade today. First pitch temperature 59, but cooler if you're not in the sun. Check swing right to Vogelback. To Marco, foot race is on. That was close. Two pitches and 1 out.
A little check swing over to Daniel. Talked about it with Marco. He is a very good athlete. Fielding his position is not a problem at all. Pretty good foot race for Marco so far. 9 batters, now 6 first pitch strikes.
Well, as we've seen this year with StatCast measuring speed in feet per second, Adam Engel, the 3rd fastest in the game. Byron Buxton leading the charge. Trey Turner of the Nationals, their young shortstop, actually tied with Engel. So Engel 2nd fastest in terms of feet per second covered. So out right there, here's Anderson.
Anderson ended up with a base hit to left field to start the game off for the White Sox. Leadoff hitter today. Was picked off at second base. That was the first out for Marco Gonzalez of the ball game. I mentioned D. Gordon with 9 steals. Anderson has 8.
Now for Anderson, over the course of his career, he's been in the leadoff spot over 80 times, and he's been terrific at the top of the order. He's nearly a .380 hitter as a leadoff man, with an on-base percentage pushing .390. Does not go. Now the 3-1. A strike. Not so fast. You can see why Anderson thinking he should take first base. Foul ground. Zunino looking for it. Vogelback over. Mike's got it. 2 outs. Well, the A's come to town May 1st through the 3rd. Fans will have back-to-back opportunities to purchase $15 bleacher and view seats, as well as $30 main and club level seats. It's all part of Mariners Value Games presented by BECU. Visit mariners.com/value to pick up your tickets. That'll begin the homestand for the Mariners. Game tomorrow here in Chicago, 4 in Cleveland, a day off, and then back home.
And that was a pretty good play by Mike Zunino. Had to cover a lot of ground. Mike also a pretty good athlete. Able to make that catch. And it looked as if Daniel actually bumped into him a little bit too when he was making the play.
Still able to hold on.
Yep. Good play.
1-0 to Sanchez. Lofts to right. Haniger in the shadows. Puts it away for out number 3. Marco Gonzalez facing the minimum for the 2nd time in the first 3 innings. King versus James Shields. You're talking about two guys who are among the active leaders in basically every statistical category. Strikeouts, game starts, innings, just sheer pitches thrown. Shields coming off a tough one his last time out. Well, welcome up to the booth. We've got a switcheroo for a few innings. Now, if you've ever questioned the dedication of this man, Ryan Roll-Smith, face we know very well. Ryan put on the suit and the tie for this moment and this moment only. Ryan, I hope it's paying off for you.
Well, look, you're pretty lucky I even came over here after last night with that. Talking about my start back in 2010, but no, I got dressed for the occasion, Aaron. I got to keep up with you. Look at you.
Well, if folks missed it, we were talking about Ryan being torn up into a million pieces in this ballpark. But it was all in good fun, and it looked like both the radio and TV broadcast benefited from your failures at one point in your career last night.
I'm glad you got a kick out of it.
Well, you know, whenever Mike and I talk about these things, and I tell Mike about the time that he committed 4 errors at third base inside Yankee Stadium, he just kind of looks at me and says, "What have you ever done?" So he puts me in my place very quickly. You can feel free to do the same. Here's Cano leading off the 4th inning for the Mariners. Rolls over one into the shift. We're out number 1.
Chris Volstad doing a good job. He's pitching off a couple days rest, 39 pitches with only 2 days off. Starting to see a little bit of fatigue, but he's pitching into this 4th inning.
It's got not a guy with overwhelming velocity and not a huge repertoire of pitches either, but so far at least it's been effective.
Yeah, that low 90s fastball, ton of sink. He came up, 2008, big time prospect with the Marlins. As a starting pitcher, so he's done this before.
One quick out for Nelson Cruz. For Volstad, he has only made one other career start against the Mariners. You have to go back to 2011. That was at Safeco Field as a member of the then Florida Marlins. Many Mariners fans remember that as the U2 series.
That's right. U2 was in town in Florida, is that right?
U2 was in town at the Marlins ballpark, and there just so happened to be a scheduled baseball game that day. So the Marlins home series got shifted to Safeco Field. They were the home team at Safeco Field. It was absolutely bizarre.
Did they pack home unis?
That's a good question. They must have, right? Into the sun in center. Angle drifts over. 2 outs. Now BP remained the same.
There you go.
Maybe they still have the road grays though. I can tell you this though. Timestamp that U2 series start for Volstad. Last time he pitched against the Mariners, Adam Kennedy was the Mariners first baseman that day.
Wow.
Carlos Peguero was in left field for the Mariners, who's now over, I saw this morning when looking this up, he's in his 3rd season in Japan for Rakuten, Iwakuma's old team. Having a pretty good career in Japan. Pulled foul by Seager. 2 outs. 0-1 to the Mariners' 3rd baseman.
And fans up in Seattle got to see pitchers hit, right?
Absolutely. Felix got a knock in that game, or in that series at least. Would you have liked that?
Well, if you look up my career numbers hitting, no. BP's fun, that's about it.
1 ball and 1 strike to Kyle. Mariners yet to get anything cooking against Volstad today. A single by Robbie. Gordon hit by a pitch. That's been it.
Yeah, he's been sharp today. Good sinking fastball down and into these left-handed hitters, down and away. And good breaking ball too. More use of the breaking ball in 2018. This is a guy that's bounced around the minor leagues the last couple of years. Tried to find a home. You could see he came up with the Florida Marlins back then, 2008. It was kind of like a staple in that rotation, and then started to struggle a little bit. Stuff started to decline. He looks good today though.
He even spent some time in Korea. Evens up 2-2 on Kyle. Mariners entering today game over 500, 11-10. White Sox really scuffling, 5-14. Now the 2-2. Top of the zone, foul away.
It's an interesting situation too. You got a guy out there on 2 days rest, and as he looks right now, he looks good, but you got to really monitor that stamina. How is he going to react tomorrow too? You're looking at 56 pitches now with 2 days rest. Right now he probably feels fine, but when he wakes up the next day, that's when you got to ask, okay, how are you feeling? How many days off we're going to give you?
You look at Volstead today, we mentioned has not been in any jams of any kind. Do we make too much, Ryan, out of stress pitches? I mean, is this a real thing? Does it feel more taxing in those situations?
Absolutely. We saw Marco Gonzalez, with the Mariners, first couple innings, getting those situations. You always, definitely, stress pitches definitely have their factor.
It's time out to the gap in right center. Hanging up, Thompson going for it, can't get there. Engel right near the front of the track. And Seager is the first Mariners man to reach second base today. That comes with 2 outs.
You see this pitch, we're talking about just monitoring him from the bench. Rick Renteria's got to start watching. The bullpen hasn't moved much, but you see that fastball's up in the zone. That's really the first time he's been up and missed with that fastball. And Kyle Seager starting to take advantage of mistakes these last couple nights.
2-out double for Kyle.
And that's really good to see with this guy right behind him, Mitch Haniger.
Love to have somebody aboard for the way that Mitch is swinging the bat. On the first pitch, chop foul.
Aaron, you talk about those stress pitches, and they do, start to factor when you're getting deeper into your pitch count. When you're talking your 60th, 70th pitch, and you've sat down, 4 or 5 times in between innings. But also too, on the flip side of that, when you're cruising, I found this a lot. When you're cruising that first 3 or 4 innings, now all of a sudden you get in a jam and you're in the stretch for the first time, you're checking runners for the first time. It can be really tough to make those pitches.
I mean, there's more of a compounding effect is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Especially on the fatigue level. Keeping a watchful eye on Kyle after the double. Haniger a home run in 4 straight games entering today. He's doubled up on that location, 0-2. Haniger a strikeout on a breaking ball his last time up. Haniger on 0-2 into center field. Here comes Seager. He's being waved in. Kyle Seager scores, and who else but Mitch Haniger, who just continues to hit. It's a 7-game hitting streak for Mitch, and he puts the Mariners in front. It's 1-0 here in the 4th.
You can see a 2-strike, tough curveball. That curveball's been tough on Mitch Haniger, and this is why he's red hot right now. Getting outside the strike zone, staying with it, rolling over that pitch, but still putting good enough wood on that ball, hitting that ball hard out to the gap. Saw that a lot in Texas too. They're a 2-strike changeup or a breaking ball. He's off balance and he's still able to hit that ball hard.
That's impressive. He's at first base. Gamble at the plate now.
Here's another guy you'd like to see get heated up. Ben Gamble. Mike Zunino got the monkey off his back last night, coming back from injury. That oblique. And another guy, Ben Gamble, slowly starting to get better swings, better counts. Bottom of this order is still so important for this Mariners offense.
Time call. Well, you're talking about the bullpen. They have 9 men in that bullpen for the White Sox. A trio of lefties. Hector Santiago beginning to stir. Former Angel. Gamble to chopper softly off the plate. Castillo wants it to end the inning. Gamble retired, but Mitch Haniger now a 7-game hitting streak. He drives to the game's first run. The Mariners have the lead. 10% off all regular price merchandise that same day. Visit one of the 5 Mariners team store locations to secure both your tickets and your savings on Mariners gear. A good spot to be in the sunshine here. Today, game 2 of 3. Good to have some Mariners fans in the house. Jose Abreu will begin things in the bottom of the 4th, facing Marco Gonzalez. Tell you what, Ryan, Marco's been in a couple of jams early on today. That being said, he's faced the minimum in 2 of the first 3 innings.
Yeah, he's come up with a couple really good changeups to get out of the jam. This guy Abreu getting that big ground ball after that pickoff, that was huge. But when you can start trusting that fastball going in and out with that pitch, it really sets that changeup up later on in the count.
And just like we saw in his last start, a pretty steady dose of curveballs too.
Yeah, he's starting to get that good finish, that good bite on that breaking ball. Last year, 2017, when he came over in the trade, we all knew about him coming back from Tommy John and just trying to still get a feel for his pitches. But he's starting to get that good bite on those pitches. Another good change up there as well. You can see the reaction too from Abreu way out in front off the end of the bat.
Hey, who said pitchers aren't athletes? Pretty good hops there for Marco.
He's a good athlete. I'd say about 40% of them are good athletes. I'll admit that.
Easy ground ball out for out number 1. That brings up the catcher, Wellington Castillo.
And you look at this White Sox lineup too, how aggressive they are, and it's always an advantage when you can pitch the 2nd, even the 3rd game of the series, because you get to that front row seat, that scouting report on what's going on. And last night, Wade LeBlanc, I thought, did a really good job of pitching backwards, and we're starting to see Marco start to pitch backwards a little bit more. You see a change up there again, breaking ball for a strike early in the count.
Off the hands. Seager cuts it off. Bobbles. Tries to recover. Not in time.
Good cutter there from Marco Gonzalez, getting another good ground ball. Kyle Seager not able to come up with that play.
That's an error on Seager.
Just took a funny hop, range into his left. Maybe some shadow involved in that. Seager not wearing the shades. But still had a chance. Wellington Castillo not busting down the line. He doesn't get down there too well. I'm going to take a look at it.
This is being challenged. Oh. Now Vogelback's foot, is that on the back?
Yeah, it looked like the throw beat him. It's just this question if Daniel Vogelback had his foot still on the bag.
Alfonso Marquez with the sunglasses on, the crew chief on your left. Let's take a look at this again.
Yeah, so the throw definitely beats him, but you can see Daniel Vogelback's toe not quite connected to that bag. And that's what I think they're looking at right now. It's something that would spark the Mariners to take another look, but when you have a close look at that back foot, it's a tough one.
Now foot off the bag, it looks like. Say this, as you mentioned, Castillo not the most fleet of foot, so giving Seager that extra split second. Pretty impressive recovery time for Kyle.
Yeah, it was. And Wellington Castillo not busting out of the box as well. He thought that was probably maybe a routine play once Kyle Seager had made the play, and then he started hustling down.
1 out, 1 on the error by Seager. Here is Davidson, the DH today. We've seen him at third base. That was the first pitch back to Zunino. Marco today making his first career start against these White Sox. Still a very young pitcher in terms of experience.
Here's another guy, Matt Davidson, another young Chicago White Sox, another power threat too. Started off on fire coming out of spring training, but he's cooled off. 5 home runs already.
A lot of those very early.
That's one of those situations, Aaron, where rookies come up and they set it on fire, and all of a sudden the league starts to catch up to them. That's those scouting reports start getting passed around. You can start seeing those holes. Yeah, it's interesting though. You look at young players like Mitch Haniger or even Ben Gamble, guys like that. When they get to that second, third year, when that league starts to make those adjustments, do they make the adjustment with the league?
How's this high fastball back? You talked about Marco pitching backwards earlier. Is that a trend you've noticed from him before?
Well, definitely today. Obviously, he got a chance to watch these White Sox last night, how aggressive they are. But I think that's going to be a weapon. If he can command that breaking ball early, especially too, when you look at the second pitch of the at-bat from Marco Gonzalez, there's a huge split. When he's 1-0, the offense is hitting, the opposing batting average is well over 500. When he's 0-1, when you can get a strike early, it's down in like the 240s, 250s. What that tells me from a young pitcher, and everyone says, well, obviously, if you get ahead of the count, that's what you're trying to do. But as a young pitcher like Marco Gonzalez, I think that's about trusting that you can expand the zone and get contact early and not feeling like you have to come right back out over the middle of the plate.
Another pitch at the knees. Davidson, he fouls it away once more.
I think, too, Marco, he has good enough stuff, especially that changeup, that he can slip behind 2-0 and still get big outs.
One out and one on here in the bottom of the fourth. Swings right through it, up above the zone. Fourth strikeout today for Marco Gonzalez.
And that was a cut fastball. We talked about pitching backwards a little bit. And when you have the ability to command a breaking ball early in the count, it sets up fastballs up in the zone or cut fastballs up in the zone for Marco. We saw that last time out against Houston as well. Going more to that fastball and freezing hitters pitching backwards.
Two outs, a man aboard. Here is Moncada. Right there on the edge for strike one. Gets the call ahead 0-2.
Yeah, the other struggles too with Marco last year and even a little bit this year too is second, third time through the order. And usually the old school way of thinking is establish your fastball, try and get everyone out your first time through with that heater. But when you look at the other way, and we talked about this with Felix a lot too, when you can show early on in the game that you can command that breaking ball inside the strike zone and outside the strike zone, those hitters are going back, and I've heard this a lot. They go back and they start talking in the dugout, talking about, well, the curveball this or that cutter got in on my hands, and it gets in the back of their head a little bit, so it gets them off that fastball.
Chance to put Moncada away here. He walked him earlier. Marco's 1-2. Big chopper. Seager. Clean play this time around. He gets Moncada by a step, and that ends the fourth. We go to the fifth. The Mariners taking a 1-0 lead with them. 1-0. Well, don't miss the star-studded weekend series May the 4th through the 6th at Safeco Field, featuring Robinson Cano, D. Gordon, and the Mariners taking on Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and the Angels. Log on to Mariners.com to punch your ticket. Looks like there's a good chance we see Ohtani possibly in that series. Looking like on Sunday the 6th. He's pitching tonight against the Astros. 8-9-1 due up for the Mariners. Here's Mike Zunino, a ground out victim his last time up. First home run of the season last night. Volsted's first pitch of the inning, missing just outside for ball 1. You know, Ryan, Mike and I have talked about it, but interested in your perspective on this. When we were all excited to see Mike Zunino come back to the lineup, we were thinking exactly of that, mostly his contributions in the lineup, but obviously his biggest contribution comes behind the plate. Having a guy back behind the plate who handles the pitching staff as well as he does, how much that helps impact the game in such a positive way for the Mariners.
Yeah, it really does. And you know, first game back and with Big James Paxton on the mound as he skies out here to shallow right field. But yeah, it's interesting. It's going to take his bat a little bit of time to come around. We saw the home run last night, but just on a consecutive basis, it's going to take a little bit consistent basis to get those big hits and that big power stroke from Mike Zunino. But behind the plate, if anything, with the just the familiar face and that familiarity with his pitching staff and knowing how they work, knowing what works well, and having that time with his guys behind the plate.
That goes a long way. Rick Renteria takes the ball. Chris Volstad, 1 run over 4 1/3. White Sox go to the bullpen. We'll step aside. A 1-0. Good look around downtown Chicago. Middle game of the series. Chris Volstad making his first start of the season. Mariners knocking him out here in the 5th, Ryan.
Yeah, he looked really good, making a spot start, 2 days off, 66 pitches. Work tossed it a little bit today, but man, he looked good and really commanded that fastball and that big breaking ball.
Mariners fortunate to scratch out a run, take the lead against Volstad, who exits and gives the ball over to the bullpen, and a familiar face, Hector Santiago, a former All-Star with the Angels back in 2015.
Yeah, Hector Santiago, big lefty. He throws a lot of different pitches, usually fastball change, but he also can mix in his curveball, cutter, slider, and split. 4.26 on the year, 12 innings exclusively out of the bullpen. Got beat out for that last rotation spot from the guy we saw last night, Carson Fulmer.
And talk about his repertoire of pitches. As recently as 2016, Santiago, he said this himself, that he was throwing the screwball. Now, come on, nobody throws a screwball, right?
You can, I mean, look, you can call that a changeup or whatever you want, but you know, anytime you are throwing this many different pitches, that can get confusing. There's only so many counts in that bat.
Infield back for Vogelbach as the count pushes full.
Yeah, Marco Gonzalez was trying to mix that cutter in spring training. He's done a really good job, and it is tough when you do add an extra pitch. What counts, how to sequence it, but when you're throwing the kitchen sink up there, that can be tough. Especially out of the bullpen.
Why so?
Because usually when you're out of that bullpen, you're going to face that lineup probably once through. Or a situation like this, you've got Vogelbach up there, you're going to be a left-on-left guy. You really have to figure out what that out pitch is and go after guys. Fastball, and then go to that out pitch right away.
Vogelbach aboard. 7-pitch plate appearance there. He's able to reach first base on the walk.
It's a good at bat from Daniel Vogelbach. He's been really struggling against lefties this year, hitting under 100. Saw him a couple nights ago. Martin Perez with the Texas Rangers, pounding down and in, found a really weak spot with Vogelbach. So that's a really good at bat.
Top of the order, D. Gordon. Hit by a pitch his last time up, running the elbow guard.
And more to the point here, Hector Santiago, obviously more of a starting pitcher throughout his career, but when you do go to that bullpen, depending on what kind of role you're going to pitch in, good chance you're only going to face that lineup once. So you really have to sort of hone in and figure out what is that out pitch and really attack hitters.
How many times have we heard a starting pitcher who has had his struggles go to the bullpen and kind of be fixed by saying that I'm no longer nibbling, right? I'm attacking guys right away. I've refined my repertoire a little bit.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously there's different mentalities for different guys. I remember, you know, times I got pushed back to the bullpen. It just reminds you that you have to attack hitters no matter if you're starting or not.
Chop to third. Sanchez to second for one. On to first. Not a time.
Just goes to show the speed of D. Gordon. You see third baseman in well off the dirt, well in. Sanchez trying to protect that bunt. D. Gordon still able to beat that play out.
So Vogelbach cut down 2 outs, but D aboard at first. Here's Segura. Gene looking for his first hit today, entering this afternoon batting .307 on the young season. Yeah, strike one. Now some conversation going on from the Mariners dugout with the home plate umpire, Mike Estabrook. Now D caught. Abreu the tag. He's out. And that is an abrupt ending to the top of the 5th. We go to the home half. Mariners on top. Save you 15% or more on car insurance. Good look at the Windy City. Mariners here for a few days before heading off to Cleveland, Ohio for a 4-game series against the Indians. 1-0 Mariners. Mitch Haniger with a base hit. A run scoring base hit. Only run so far in the day. Marco Gonzalez to face the bottom third of the order of the White Sox. It starts off with Trace Thompson. We saw Trace earlier this year with the A's. And now over back with the White Sox, his second stint with the Southsiders. Now the first pitch, Segura smothers it from a knee to first. What a play by Gene Segura. That is tremendous.
Yeah, nice play to his left. Coming up, knew he didn't have a whole lot of time. Trace Thompson can get down that line real quick. This is what I love about Gene Segura, that arm strength, throwing off one knee, making a really good play, and good pick by Bogan on the other end of that. We saw that last night too. Bobbled the ball on one knee and just shows off that really good arm strength.
Marco's got to love that, the effort, the execution, and also the fact that 1 pitch and 1 out to start things.
Yeah, that pitch count's very healthy right now, 60 pitches, and he continues to do that right there, staying away from the middle of the plate and forcing these White Sox hitters to be a little bit more patient, knowing that he's not going to be middle early in the count.
Ahead now 0-2. And you think about the importance for Marco Gonzalez today to give Scott Service a little bit of length in the rotation. So far on this road trip, the deepest a starter has gone is 5 1/3. That was game 1 in Texas for Felix. Last night, Leake, of course, just 3 1/3. But the numbers overall, Ryan, in this road trip, last 4 games, 20 earned runs over 17 1/3 innings by this Mariners rotation.
Yeah, it shows what it does too. When your starting pitching isn't able to get deep, first of all, it can beat up your bullpen. Obviously, Wade LeBlanc last night did a great job coming in and salvaging that game. But also what it does too is you know there's going to be big innings and high stress pitches like we talked about earlier. When your starting pitching isn't getting in that groove and setting up and getting deep into that game. This is really healthy. This is a really good sign right here from Marco, getting 0-2 and expanding that strike zone here in the 5th inning.
Here's 2-2. Strike 3 called. Gets it with a fastball. Perfect placement by Marco Gonzalez for strikeout number 5. Use your Mariners ticket to ride Link Light Rail to and from the game through June 3rd. Learn more at soundtransit.org. Marco, 8 strikeouts. His last time out against the Astros, now 5 here. Now facing Adam Engel. You talk about Wade LeBlanc last night. How about a couple of days ago? James Pazos was as good as he's maybe ever been.
Really good, and doing it with 2 pitches too. You know, a guy like that, James Pazos, comes in. He knows his role is going to be, you know, middle to late bullpen. In that bullpen, and getting a chance to, you know, really get extended out. It's funny, I had a conversation last year about what guy would you have being a starting pitcher. James Pazos, you're talking about a lefty with a really good slider, and, you know, mid-90s fastball. It'd be amazing, you know, if he could start mixing in the changeup a little bit, and you see that evolution of those middle of the pack bullpens going deeper. Davinsky over there with the Houston Astros, that could be a real weapon. But now he looked really good a couple nights ago.
There's a line from James, who's incredibly efficient. 30 pitches facing 10 batters. Off the fist, tough play. Seager cuts it off. Another bobble. Boy, a rare day defensively for Kyle Seager.
Yeah, looked like he's pressing just a little bit on a couple of these balls, rushing. See right here, maybe it's something to do with the shadows, but see that ball just jumping out of that glove.
That's an error in back-to-back innings now for Kyle on very close to an identical play.
Yeah, that's really rare. It's a tough break too. You talked about obviously Marco Gonzalez executing, getting those big outs, that good cut fastball. Now he's got to face the top of this lineup.
Here's Anderson, tie and run aboard. Chasing outside, ball one. Couple of steals so far this year for Engel. Takes the lead off at first. There he goes. Zdeno, a rifle down to second. Swipe tag. Cano got him. Engel is toast, and it ends the inning.
Check out this throw. Engel, the bottom of that lineup, can really run. Ian chance to take off here, and Mike's in there with a perfect throw.
Right on target. We're through 5. Mariners have the lead. We'll see if the White Sox will challenge. They will not. All right, thank you, Angie. Segura leading things off for the Mariners in the 6th. Fouls off the next pitch from Santiago.
It's about that time, Aaron. Middle of this order right now. Gene Segura, Robbie Canoa. Time to bust out against this struggling pitching staff from the White Sox.
Santiago has taken over for Volstad, who got the start today, his first of the year. Santiago making his 7th appearance of the season, a fairly lofty ERA, 4.25. Although those numbers can get inflated easily as a reliever. One bad outing can really sink you for a while. But 6 walks and 12 2/3 innings entering today for Santiago. Another foul ball.
You see right here too, 0-2 quickly to Gene Segura, and just having a tough time putting him away. One of the toughest guys really to strike out. Able to cover a lot of ground with that bat.
And to left field, Anderson, the shortstop, wants it. Now number 1. This MLB season, get the baseball game that will have you wanting to play it again. RBI Baseball 18 delivers all new franchise mode and much more. RBI Baseball 18 is available now for Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, iOS, and Android. Learn more at rbigame.com. Got to get a Chicago dog when you're here.
Don't get that mustard on that teal jersey. That's not coming out.
You know, Blowers is right behind him someplace. Mike over in the radio booth right now. 1 out for Cano. Quickly 0-2 on Robbie. Santiago's 0-2. He was maybe thinking that was strike 3 instead of ball and 2 strikes to Robbie. We've talked about how locked in Cano is. Go by the numbers with StatCast. A hard hit ball is considered anything put in play that's at least 95 miles an hour off the bat, and Robbie is right there among the league leaders. In fact, you look at it, 60% of the balls he has put in play this year have been considered a hard hit ball. How easy it can be. You just get a weak dribbler, right?
Yeah.
That'll knock your average down of how many times you can get one off the bat of at least 95 miles an hour. A pop up. He's squaring a lot of pitches up.
Yeah, he really is. A lot of doubles, a lot of extra base hits, just not quite translating yet into the long ball.
Out to center. This has some carry to it. Engel to the track has just enough room for out number 2. 2 up, 2 down to bring up Nelson Cruz. How about a look ahead to tomorrow, final game of this series. This will be a good pitching matchup. Felix Hernandez making start number 6. The King taking on big game James Shields, making his 5th start of the season for the White Sox. 2 of the longer tenured American League starting pitchers.
Yeah, good vintage matchup right there. James Shields, Felix Hernandez. You see James Shields' numbers inflated just a little bit, obviously, but he's a lot of fun to watch.
That'll be day baseball, earlier day baseball than today. We are on the air at 10:30 a.m. back in the Northwest.
As we've seen these first couple games from the White Sox, and you look at the numbers coming into the series, don't let the numbers fool you. Starting pitching has done a really nice job against the Mariners.
1 ball and the 1 strike to Nelson Cruz. Twice he has flown out to center field today.
Hector Santiago getting just 2 strikes very quickly again. You see the quality of these 2-strike pitches against Gene Segura and Robbie Cano, just missing these pitches.
Hard hit grounder to Anderson. Shortstop gobbles it up. Loops the throw to first base, and the side retired in order. Off to the bottom of the 6th, 1-0 Mariners. thrown the ball for sure, actually, since his first start against the Giants.
It really is. And starting with that pitch right there, that change up to get him out of that jam in the first inning against Abreu. Good breaking ball too, a ton of bite on that pitch. And doing it with all of his pitches as well. We've seen the cutter to get him ground balls, change up being a good pitch, and the fastball too, up in the zone, finishing guys off, pitching backwards, and really slowing down the pace of this White Sox offense.
Anderson on the first pitch dunks this into right field. A rare hit for the White Sox. Their first since the first inning. Tying run with good speed is aboard.
Tim Anderson, look for him to run. He's starting to run a lot more. They talked to him about that in spring training over there at first base. Try and swipe some more bags. Such a good athlete. He definitely can run. 15 stolen bags last year. So Marco's got to do a good job here holding him at first base.
Now, when he was caught stealing in the first inning, that snapped 17 successful steals in a row. And he swiped his first 8 tries this year. Just missing ball 1 to Sanchez. Long pause. Showing bunt. 1-1. You know, I talked to Marco yesterday, and I said, Marco, 8 strikeouts against the Astros. What was going on with that? We haven't seen 8 strikeout Marco Gonzalez, and he just said, I got lucky. So I don't know. Today's averaging a strikeout an inning.
You can't be that humble. Come on. You have to own that.
I'd say so.
If I haven't struck out 8 guys, I felt like I was striking every hitter out. It's a good trend when you can see a guy like Marco Gonzalez, and you hear that term, pitch to contact, and we talked about that last night. And it can drive you crazy sometimes when you want these guys to be aggressive, to attack these hitters, and expand the zone. It's good to see.
I know last season, pushing 35% of all plate appearances resulted in a walk, a strikeout, or a homer. Last single season percentage in big league history.
Wow.
Anderson really leaning.
There's definitely a time and place to pitch the contact. When you got a jam going on and you can get that weak ground ball. But man, when you get 2 strikes, bury that hitter. See the pitch quality a little bit fading, watching Tim Anderson there at first base. This is probably going to be his biggest inning of the day. Look back at that first inning when he was in jam. He's got the top of the lineup, Abreu on deck, who crushes lefties. Crushed lefties last year, hitting well over 350. That's the big out, Sanchez at the plate.
Now Abreu is the guy in this lineup. He looms on deck with the leadoff man aboard in a 1-run game.
That's what we're talking about, Aaron. 2 strikes. Put him away. I know you want a ground ball, but when you get 2 strikes.
The 2-2. He does. Good change up there from Marco Gonzalez, his 6th strikeout.
Really good changeup. You look at this. Mike's in there setting up down and away. It's got that extra finish on that changeup today, just like we saw against the San Francisco Giants, his first start of the year. When you see that late life on a pitch, he's getting that extra extension. That comes down to confidence too, knowing that he doesn't have to worry about slipping back 3-2 in that count, and really attacking that pitch.
That late life, that's the finish you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes down to, obviously, he's coming back from his Tommy John surgery last year. Now he's fully healthy. He's got a little bit extra confidence coming out of spring training.
Now Abreu out of the plate.
And this right here is probably going to be the biggest at bat for Marco Gonzalez this afternoon. Bray's a patient hitter.
This is big for Marco Gonzalez. Scott Service letting his young left-hander get through the order the 3rd time. 3rd time facing Abreu. He's grounded out twice, including into a double play. Marco would love that here.
Not only that, too, it gives him that good continual confidence boost those 4 days before that next start, knowing that he can get a guy out 3 times.
Back to first. I talked about the stress on the rotation, the limited innings last 4 games out. Marco trying to be the first Mariner starter to pitch a full 6 innings in 5 games. There goes Anderson and puts on the brakes. It's 0-2 now.
Yeah, it's really come down the last 5 days. That big inning we saw, James Paxton a couple nights ago, really struggling with the 2-strike pitches and turned into a big inning for him. Ramirez a couple nights ago. Obviously Mike Leake yesterday.
Anderson toying with Marco at first. Meanwhile, Gonzalez had 0-2. Here it comes. Golf foul.
Here it is, another 0-2 count against Abreu. This is what we're talking about, not pitching to contact. Sometimes when you have that mindset of pitching to contact, you're going to be out over the plate. This is a chance to bury Abreu, bury that breaking ball, bounce this pitch if you think you're going to throw that curveball, elevate, expand that strike zone.
Another 0-2. Got him. What a pitch by Marco Gonzalez, elevated above the zone. 7 strikeouts for Marco through 5 2/3, and none bigger than that to Abreu.
Yeah, this is a really good sign for Marco Gonzalez when he's showing that confidence and with that fastball too late in the count, pitching backwards a little bit. You can see right here this fastball well up in the strike zone, challenging Abreu, and not looking over at first base thinking, oh, I need to get a ground ball double play right here, challenging the hitter and getting after it. I love it.
Not out of the woods yet, facing Castillo. He's got plenty of pop. Cleanup hitter today for Chicago. There are many left-handed hitters who would love to go back to the hotel and say that they held left-handed pitchers, I beg your pardon, who would love to say they held Jose Abreu 0 for 3 with a strikeout.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you see the numbers he puts up against left-hand hitters.
Time call.
And some big spots too back in that first inning. 2 runners on, getting the ground ball.
No, we were talking about stress pitches earlier, and
yeah.
I mean, you're looking at this right now. Fine line for Marco.
Yeah.
Tie and run suddenly aboard with the leadoff single on the first pitch. Punch out to Sanchez, punch out to Abreu. Now the last hurdle, Castillo. And he's ahead 0-2.
Yeah, and when you're a young pitcher, that game can speed up in you a little bit, especially here in the 6th inning. 70+ pitches coming into this inning, so this is a great sign for Marco Gonzalez. And you mentioned it, Aaron, too. This is important. Start to get that rotation deeper into the game.
Gotta happen. Anderson, the tying run at first. Go ahead at the plate, Castillo. The 0-2. Line left field. Gamble playing deep, has to play it on a hop. Anderson making the turn. He goes first to third easily. Runners down the corners.
You see this cutter out over the middle of the plate. Talking about expanding the zoning, especially with 2 strikes. But again, this is that situation. Marco's been doing such a good job of focusing pitch to pitch in this situation. You can't look at this and say, an anchor on the fact you had him 0-2. You have to move on and get Matt Davidson.
Bullpen will start to move around. Dan Altavilla beginning to loosen. 2 outs, tying run at third. Go ahead run, Castillo at first. Here's Davidson. Swing and a miss for strike one.
See Mel and Scott Service. Scott Service lengthening that leash a little bit on Marco, especially compared to last start. You see Dan Altavilla getting loose. Done a nice job. Back into that bullpen.
0-2. Now Davidson second on this team in home runs, but also second on the White Sox in strikeouts. Marco's already got him once. That was on a cutter. No margin for error here for Marco Gonzalez. 2 outs and his 0-2. Strike 3 called. Expands the zone. That's 8 strikeouts here for Marco Gonzalez through 6 innings. He gets out of a big time jam with a little bit of help from Mike Zunino. Over Sanchez, strikeout victim number 1, and then the big bat of the order, Jose Abreu, coming up with the tie and run aboard. It's Abreu elevating. A single by Castillo, and then this just happening. Davidson caught looking on a pitch outside. Rick Renteria, notice that might have been a little bit wide of the plate, Mike.
And he is not happy about it at all. He's going to argue as much as he possibly can, and there you go. Another look at Mike Zunino, and it's why he's one of the best. This pitch probably off the plate away, and you can see Mike stealing a strike right on the outside corner. Mike Estabrook, the home plate umpire. I'll give Gonzalez some credit too. He has been around the strike zone. What a big strikeout that was, though.
That's got to be a big part of it, right? The fact that he has been hovering around the zone all day.
He's been right on the edges of the plate all day long, and then you have one of the best in Mike Zunino stealing a strike right there. But you're going to get the benefit of the doubt the more strikes you throw, and he's thrown a lot of strikes today, which is great to see.
Should we ask the question now about Marco Gonzalez, strikeout pitcher, Mike? 8 strikeouts, back-to-back starts for Marco?
Well, I really like the way he's gone about his business today, and that is using all of his pitches. It's what I talked to Scott Service about today. And I like his curveball early in counts. It's been a great pitch.
Ball and 2 strikes on Kyle, who doubled and scored the only run of the game.
The bullpen had been up, but they're sitting down right now, and Marco is really throwing the ball well. But I think his career high is 9 strikeouts when he was with St. Louis.
Eight strikeouts his last start, 8 again today.
9 strikeouts in 2014 against the Rockies.
Seager, Haniger, Gamble all due up here in the 7th. Upstairs, outside, full count. Shot over towards left center. Seager aboard with his 2nd hit today. It's a leadoff single. Now be sure to stick around after the game for Mariners post-game presented by Alaska Airlines. We'll be eager to hear from Marco and also from Scott Service talking about Marco Gonzalez today. Now here comes the man who has driven in the only run of this game so far, Mitch Haniger. Who else would it have been? Now a 7-game hitting streak for Mitch. Way outside.
Not sure how often, especially at this point in the game, 7th inning, that I've been able to say the Mariners have had 1 runner in scoring position, and they are 1 for 1 with runners in scoring position because they have the right guy up there in Mitch Haniger. He's the hottest hitter. Going to hit a home run in 5 straight games.
He is now tied with Didi Gregorius of the Yankees for the major league lead in runs batted in. He and Didi both with 24.
Well, they're having a team meeting now out on the mound. You can see his splits. I would say that's pretty consistent. Doesn't matter where he's at, Aaron, he's going to hit.
He seems to really like hitting it home more.
Lefties, righties. It's good to see Kyle Seager get his 2nd base hit. Kyle scored the 1 run after hitting a double. He had a double in last night's ball game, so a little bit slow on the road trip. Seems to be coming out of it.
Good sign there. Haniger ahead in the count. The 2-0. Abreu over for a peak, but into the seats, foul ball. And Mike, we talk all the time about a hitter doing this or doing that when they're in a slump, trying to get out of it, this drill or that drill, maybe even shaving, wearing their socks high or low.
Yeah.
What about when you're red hot like this guy? I mean, do you just
do not change a thing. He's had the same meal every day. He's going to have to get a steak and a baked potato for breakfast tomorrow. 1 o'clock game. You don't change anything. Try not to overthink it. And it's funny too because even the hitting coaches, Edgar, Scott Brocious, Chris Pareto, who helps, Scott Service, they're not offering any advice right now. Sort of like a starting pitcher that's pitching really well and everybody just kind of stays away from him. That's what's going on with Mitch right now. Everybody's just letting him do his thing.
He's working on a 4-day no-hitter.
Exactly.
Seager aboard after the single. Haniger down on strikes. Not a pitch that he normally misses.
No, he certainly hasn't. It's rare to see him miss anything that's in the middle of the plate, and that's exactly what happened. It was a fastball, 91 miles an hour. They want to go to the outside corner, but it's center cut, and he just missed it.
One out, 1 on for Ben Gamble.
I will say this, though. The one time that was probably a little bit different was when Ken Griffey Jr. hit 8 in a row. And he would walk into the clubhouse, and announce whether he was going to hit a home run that day or not. And during the game, having the best time, talking to everybody about everything. It didn't seem to matter to him at all.
I guess he's a little different.
He's a little different.
And you said that the ninth day, that would have been the ninth straight home run. He said it's not happening.
Yeah, he didn't feel good about his swing. He said that in batting practice he was hooking the ball a lot, so he's kind of getting around it some. And he said his swing didn't feel quite right that day. And by the way, he missed hitting in the ninth day by feet, where it hit up in the right-hand corner out on the right center field wall. But yeah, he called it right every time, Aaron.
Up the middle, base hit, Ben Gamble. Seager pedals to second, holds up there. Gamble 1 for 3 on the day.
We'll take a look at it. Little breaking ball, is able to stay on it. Finds a hole right back up the middle. Good situation for the Mariners. Mike Zunino is going to step in. Mike had a couple of hits, including his first home run yesterday, and I like his approach again today. 0 for 2, a ground out and a fly out to right. But he looks close. He's pretty good at the plate. Nobody getting loose in the pen for Chicago.
And that was the third hardest hit homer in Zunino's career, the one you referenced last night. That's saying something. 110 miles an hour off the bat for Mike. 428 feet. 2 on, 1 out. The 1-0. Pops him up. Moncada, Abreu. Second baseman Moncada, who makes the catch, round number 2. Well, join us at Safeco Field on May the 4th as we celebrate Star Wars night with nearly 70 Star Wars characters. A sneak peek at the new Solo movie and a Han Solo-inspired Kyle Seager bobblehead for the first 20,000 fans. Head on over to Mariners.com for tickets. I have to imagine that Cruz Seager, the oldest of Kyle's kids, will probably be having a Kyle Seager Star Wars bobblehead doll in his room after that day, if he doesn't have one already.
Exactly. I would say that's safe.
And he's thinking, well, everybody's dad has bobbleheads, right?
See if Daniel can come up with a big base hit. He was 0 for 1, walked his last time up.
Let's go, fat boy!
They don't have the shift on for Daniel, but they do have Moncada in shallow right field. Oh, 0-2.
A couple of tough pitches right on the outside corner.
Two on, 2 outs. The 0-2. Anderson lets Moncada handle it. He can't. Seager rounds third, holds. Pretty in between. Anderson swinging over and Moncada at second. Everybody's safe. And the base is loaded. That's an error on Moncada, the second baseman.
Yeah, this is tough on Moncada, the second baseman. You could see the shortstop running right in front of him. Probably picked him up out of the corner of his eye. The ball hit the heel of his glove. Anderson was in good shape to make the play. Decided not to last second. That really helped out the Mariners. Turn the lineup over. D. Gordon going to step in. Well, the base is loaded now.
Big spot here. D looking for his first hit. He's been hit. Slow motion swing, strike 1. Oh, 2. And Santiago worked away from Vogelback, working away from Gordon as well. Bases loaded, the 0-2. Ground ball. Sanchez at third base on the grass. Mariners leave him loaded. Time to stretch. Mariners holding to a 1-0 lead. Plenty of Mariners fans in the house today. Some late afternoon baseball here in Chicago. 1-0 Mariners. Open things up in the bottom of the 7th. And good to see Marco Gonzalez back up on the mound. He's got a strong 6. He's a strikeout away from tying a career best.
I had a chance to talk to Scott Service about him today, and I asked him, because in his last outing he went through the lineup twice with Houston and ended up taking him out after 4 2/3, 79 pitches overall, and I asked him if he was going to cut him loose, and he said if he's pitching well and he's throwing well, he's going to let him go today, and that's what's happened. I really thought maybe after the leadoff hitter was on last inning they may bring somebody out of the bullpen, but they let him work his way out of it and ended up with 3 strikeouts in the inning.
Second time he struck out the side today. Line left field. Gamble having to chase after it. Off the base of the wall. Moncada in at second base. The bullpen stirring. Tie and run in scoring position.
This pitch is down at the bottom of the strike zone. See, Mike was set up on the outside corner. It ended up in the middle of the plate. Dan Altavilla and Zepchinski both getting loose out in the pen. And Scott Service out of the dugout.
Six-plus innings today for Marco. He comes in out shy of tying a season high, a career best in terms of innings. And a strikeout away from tying a career high, and he's making the call. We've got a pitching change after Moncada's leadoff double. Tie and run in scoring position. digital world. By Money Tree, proud to make a donation to Mariners Care for every Mariners win. By Jack in the Box, try the new Cholula Buttery Jack, part of the Buttery Jack family, only at Jack in the Box. And by BNSF, sponsor of the BNSF Blast. One of the best starts of the year for Marco Gonzalez.
6+ for him, 5 hits. Did not give up a run. He is responsible for the runner at second base. Had 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, 89 pitches, 63 strikes.
Our Beacon Plumbing call to the bullpen. Dan Altavilla up on the hill.
Yeah, 95 to 98 miles an hour. And a hard slider as you take a look at his work so far this year. 10 2/3, 13 strikeouts. Opponents hitting 194 against him. Kyle expecting the bunt at third. Swings away late on the fastball. Andrew Romine is at first base.
We'll go back done for the day. Oh, 2. Well, that didn't take long. Finishes him at 98.
Just climb the ladder. You see Mike wants the high strike, and he hits the target. 3 late swings.
One out, 1 on, tie and run right behind Altavilla. That's Moncada. Here's Leury Garcia, who struck out twice. First pitch popped up. Seager running out of room. Has space, makes the catch, 2 outs. Came back on him a little bit, it looked like.
Well, there's a breeze blowing from left to right, and you're right, it certainly did. And that'll happen in these big stadiums. The ball typically, because of the spin, will come back to the field of play, and that's why, as an infielder or even an outfielder, just can't give up on the play. As you look at the flags, help the Mariners out.
Nice work by Seager. 2 outs, trying to work around that leadoff double.
Delmonico is going to pinch hit. Will hit for Engel.
We saw Delmonico in the starting lineup last night. In fact, he was the cleanup hitter.
That's Scott Service. It looks like he's going to get Zebchenski, the left-handed. Nice job by Dan.
Retires both men that he faces. Zebchenski coming on left coming up. 59 degrees at first pitch. The sun has been out for the most part. Pretty pleasant day at the ballpark here on the south side. 1-0. Mariners still holding on as we play in the bottom of the 7th. We're about to see the third pitcher for the Mariners. Scott going to the bullpen for the second time. Mark Zipchinski on to work.
And for Zipchinski, this will be his 9th appearance on the year. Just 3 2/3, 3 strikeouts, a couple of walks. Sinking fastball at 92 miles an hour and a slider.
Facing the pinch hitter, Nicky Delmonico. First pitch up the middle. Segura handles it smoothly for the final out. Almost looked like he got a piece of Zipchinski. Looks to be all right. We go to the 8th. Changes defensively for the White Sox. Delmonico, who just came off the bench to pinch hit, is in left field. That moves Garcia into center. Engel done for the day. Segura, Cano, and Cruz coming up here for the Mariners.
Things were happening pretty fast that last inning. Didn't get a chance to talk about Marco Gonzalez and his outing. Really threw the ball well. A big key for him. 24 batters, 18 first pitch strikes. So working ahead the entire game. And it's interesting. I think the numbers will get a little bit closer as the season moves on. But that first pitch strike is so important, especially to Marco. When he throws a first pitch strike, hitter's hitting just over 200. When he misses, it's right around 500. So
huge swing.
So you look at his last 2 outings. You were mentioning the strikeouts. That's a big part of it, and also just mixing it up. His last outing, he threw his curveball more than his changeup, which is unusual, and I bet he's right there again today, or pretty close to it, which is exactly what Scott Servais wanted to see. And the other thing about it too is that I like that Scott went out to get him. He probably wanted to finish the inning. He was at 89 pitches, but at that point, you're still trying to build up his confidence. And he was able to build off of his last outing, get him out of the game. No chance for him to lose the game at that point, and let him gain some more confidence.
Out to right field for round number 1. Well, Mike, this seems like a good time. I'd like to wish you a happy birthday, my man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You are, well, you've been part of some of the greatest teams in Mariners franchise history. You've been in the booth for a dozen years. You have more home runs than any German-born player in Major League history.
Thank you for that. Yes, that's true.
Now, I have some presents for you, Mike.
You do.
Now, one's a need and one's a want.
One's a need and one's a want.
I'm going to give you the need first. You know, we're going to go get a good steak.
Yes, we are.
The great
I'm
American
looking forward to
Steakhouses next, Gibson's. And I'm going to need you to take that stuff off your face. So here's some makeup wipes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Because you're a man after all.
Okay, thank you.
A manly man. Now the other one.
I'll make that happen.
Here's the want, as this is laced just foul. Mike, I feel like I know you very well by now. And I don't think anything would make you happier than a bag of gummy bears.
Only if I had some soft serve with it. But thank you very much.
There you go.
That's special. Very nice.
This means I don't have to buy you chocolate cake tonight.
Gummy bears in the chocolate cake, maybe? I don't know. We'll try it.
Mike
but thank you very much.
Mike
thank
is
you.
a gummy bear aficionado. That's just one of the many
Yep, I like them.
elements of Mike's sweet tooth. But there'll be plenty of steak and chocolate cake later tonight after this one's over with.
Now, since I had a good time at Ryan's expense yesterday, did you guys talk about me getting out of the cab?
I have not said that. I would
yeah.
no. I would only wait for you to be here to say that. It would just seem mean otherwise.
Thank you.
Big breaking ball is hammered foul. Yeah, this was. I heard this just for the first time a couple hours ago. You and Shannon riding over here.
We came over in a cab today, and when we pulled up in front of the ballpark, I jumped out of the car and was waiting for Shannon to get her things together. And the cab driver, who was a nice gentleman, he was talking to Shannon, and he asked Shannon. He goes, "Is that a player, or was that a former player?" And Shannon goes, "Yeah, he was a former player, and now he's one of the broadcasters." And he goes, "Oh, an old timer."
On your birthday.
Normally, any other day, okay, acceptable, but on my birthday, really. So Shannon thought that was pretty funny, and she told that story a couple of times. So when I was down in the Mariners dugout during batting practice and they were stretching and I was talking to people, a number of people relayed that story to me. So it went around pretty fast. But anyway.
Well, put a bow on all that. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you.
And this is a great city. If you can't be at home for it, this is a great spot to be for your birthday.
Yeah, and you and I both, we disagreed with the 4 o'clock time, but we'll still have time to get
We'll have time.
Yeah.
We'll be able to cab it over to Gibson's pretty quickly.
Yeah, so thank you, and thank you for the gifts.
Oh, hey, you know, it's I went over the route budget on this, but I figure, hey, this only happens once a year, Mike. I'm happy to do it for you.
I appreciate it.
Mariners trying to play a little add-on here as it evens up to Robbie. A 9-man bullpen, Nate Jones, getting loose.
Now, a unique delivery, but he throws hard. He'll be in the upper 90s.
Robbie socks this to left. Delmonico, the new man, right up to shoelaces. 2 outs. I'll bring up Nelly.
And a pitching change.
Jones coming out, 2 outs, bases empty, top of the 8th inning. Mariners clinging, 1-0 lead. nipping at the Mariners' heels. 3.5 games back of the first place Astros. Rangers. Mariners just took 2 games out of 3 against Texas, playing Oakland, middle of the series there in Arlington, Texas. Pretty big come from behind win last night for the A's. Well, here is Jones. We're just talking about him.
7 appearances, a 1.23 ERA, 10 strikeouts and 7 1/3. And I mentioned that he was going to throw hard, and he has 98 miles an hour. He also has a slider to go with it. An occasional changeup. Doesn't use it much.
Hard hit ground ball finds the glove of Jones. Side retired in order between Santiago and Jones. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Nicasio is on to work the 8th.
For Nicasio, this will be his 10th appearance on the year. 1-0 record. In 9 2/3, he has 8 strikeouts. Just the 1 walk. Opponent's hitting .250. His fastball will be 91 to 96 miles an hour with a slider.
You know, Mike, I think we were thinking the same thing on that ground ball out to end the inning by Nelson Cruz. As we go back to the hit up the middle, it turned out not to be. Delmonico grounding out to end the inning. That was part of the bullpen inning for the Mariners. Altavilla to Zipchinski.
Turned out to be a big play in the game with the runner at second base, trying to hang on to that 1-run lead.
And bridge things to Nicasio here.
Top of the lineup for the White Sox.
We were curious to see what Nicasio's velocity would be like. Was a little tight his last time out. Talks got service into staying in the game. The velocity down. Good look there in that first fastball.
Yep, 92 miles an hour.
Even better.
More importantly, well located on the outside corner. Spoke to Scott about Nicasio today, and he was hoping to get him in the game. Well, here you go. Been a few days for him.
High target by Zunino for the 0-2. Swings right through it. 94 up above the zone. Nicasio pumping strikes to begin things.
Well, you mentioned it. Mike Zunino with the high target. Right at the top of the strike zone. 94 miles an hour. Late swing.
Come on, Yo Junior!
Here's Sanchez. Now, there's a period in time, kind of consecutive seasons, where the Mariners, I believe the White Sox might have been the other team, along with the Giants in the National League, to be among baseball's best in terms of number of one-run games. And this was something that the Mariners were specializing in. We have not had, at least relative to the last couple of seasons, Mike, we've not had nearly the ratio, the quantity of one-run games early on. There have been some.
There have been.
But the wins and losses have been decided by more than that. But a close one here today. Time called.
Go, Sanchez!
Now, for the Mariners today, you talk about the need for Scott to get some length out of his rotation, and Marco Gonzalez going 6+ today. First time in 5 games the Mariners have had a starter go 6 innings. Have to go back to game 3 at home. Mike Leake against the Astros. The 0-2.
And I'm sure with LeBlanc going yesterday and saving the bullpen and having him not available today, he was probably trying to figure out how he was going to piece it together if things didn't go well for Marco. So that really helped him and the bullpen out, because the bullpen is in really good shape right now outside of LeBlanc, but they needed Marco to get deeper in the game.
Another 0-2.
He's just gone right after him, trying to keep the ball away from him. Looked like Mike was set up on the inside corner that time, but that pitch off the plate away.
There's Wade. Got plenty of work last night in game 1. First pitch that has not been a strike, and it essentially was.
First time that he was able to pitch him inside. Another high target for Mike. He wanted that pitch above the belt. He was able to get it there, but just missed the inside corner.
Pesky at bat here. That's the 4th pitch he's fouled off with 2 strikes.
Now this will be the 8th pitch of the at bat.
Don't want to see that guy, Jose Abreu. He's due up next.
Another high fastball. That one probably up out of the zone.
Go, Sanchez! Straighten it out, buddy. Straighten it out.
Pitch number 9.
You gotta fight!
Mike wants an inside corner again.
There you go.
Sock to right, trouble. Haniger in front of the track, able to haul it in. That on up into the breeze. It did not take it as far as it maybe could have. Haniger able to cover some ground.
And it was elevated the top of the zone. Didn't quite get it to the corner, but jams him just enough to keep it in the ballpark. See Mitch calling for it. Easy play.
Plenty of room. Like the at-bat, but out number 2. Well, here's Abreu. On the first pitch, twisting pop-up. Zunino. Basket catch. Zunino makes the play to end the inning. What a play.
Their most dangerous hitter. That is a huge play with a 1-run lead.
Side sat down in order.
Well, you're absolutely right. Mike is a tremendous athlete. We've said that over the years. That is not an easy catch, especially with a catcher's glove on and that ball slicing away from him. And then you can see the railing also aware of where he's at. But when you consider their lineup, Abreu, the most dangerous hitter in the lineup, most accomplished hitter, a couple of home runs yesterday, and to get him to foul out and make that play and not give him a chance to swing the bat again, big time.
That brings us to the top of the 9th. Seager leading things off.
Kyle has scored the 1 run for the Mariners. A couple hits for him, including a double. Had a double last night.
Your brother never had 2 errors in 1 game, ever.
The 2-0. Shot out to left center. Garcia adjusting on it. 1 out. Now possibly the last time tonight for Mitch Haniger to try to homer for the 5th straight game. Let's put it this way, hopefully the last time. Mitch will have the opportunity. Does have a base hit. In fact, he has driven in the only run of this game. Now time for the major league lead in RBIs. Home runs in 4 straight. Last year, Nelly doing the same feat. Back in 2015, Nelson Cruz going deep in 5 consecutive games. Of course, Junior with home runs in 8 consecutive games, tying a major league record.
Well, by the way, I was talking about that with Junior. It wasn't as if he came in the clubhouse and announced it. It was actually Jay Buhner that would scream it across the clubhouse and ask him, are you going to hit another home run today? And then he would laugh and say yes or no. And it was yes for 8 straight days.
So the Buhner interview.
Yeah.
One and two.
A couple of pretty good sliders. You can see the location on that last one, our EQC tracer, right on the outside corner. Jones is topped out at 98 miles an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. After a couple of sliders, 99 in off the plate. Tried to check his swing. They were set up away. He just missed his location, and that really tied him up. It'd tie up anybody at 99. He's trying to stay in there on that slider. Another reason why we're seeing more and more players with that guard on their helmet. That'll wake you up a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say
scary.
so. Another 1-2. Limboed back, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
He's not trying to pitch him inside. Castillo was set up on the outside corner, and he's just missing his location, but throwing hard.
Strike 3 call. Can't do anything with that pitch. Painting with 99.
As you might guess, Edwin Diaz getting loose in the bullpen.
He'll be ready. Here's Gamble. Gamble 1 for 3 on the day. A single his last time up.
John Lester hits that one. Are you a pitcher?
Called for a strike to make it 1-2. Just fair up the line to first base. And the side retired in order. Well, here we go out of the bottom of the 9th inning. Edwin Diaz coming out, trying to pick up the save in a 1-0 ball game. Now guaranteed rate field. Mariners taking a 1-0 lead to the bottom of the 9th inning. And as you'd expect, they hand the ball over to Edwin Diaz.
This will be his 11th appearance. It's perfect as far as his saves go. ERA 0.87 and 19 strikeouts and 10 1/3. Opponent's hitting .059 against him. His fastball being the upper 90s and a hard slider.
Okay, either way, get on base, home run, let's go home. Simple as that. Andy would have won here.
Good start. Slider, strike one.
Your knees up, you're blowing the game.
And it was Gonzalez with 6+ scoreless. Altavilla bridging to Zepchinski, then on to Nicasio. Now Diaz. Seager right behind the bag at third base. 1 out. Now, since this ballpark was put up in '91, the Mariners have only had 4 shutout wins here on the south side of Chicago. You think about the tremendous pitching staffs over the years for the Mariners.
Freddie Garcia, Randy Johnson, Jamie Moyer. Yeah. A number of them. Felix
for well over a decade.
Yeah.
The Mariners have never won here by the score of 1-0. One and one to Davidson.
Couple of sliders.
One and two.
Good fastball. 98, top of the strike zone. Difficult for anybody to catch up to it.
Two outs. Diaz's last save an inning and a third. As we go back and look at this heater.
Another high target from Mike Zunino.
Oh, and one quickly to Moncada. Make it 0-2.
It's just cheating on the fastball. A couple of off-speed pitches at 89 miles an hour out in front of him.
At 100. I think maybe the first time we've seen triple digits from Edwin this year. Making it look pretty easy today. Edwin Diaz carving through the White Sox in the 9th to lock down a 1-0 Mariners win.
Marco Gonzalez gets his second win of the year. What an outing he had today. 6+ innings in the 8 strikeouts. Was able to get a little bit deeper in the ballgame. The bullpen was terrific today. And Mitch Haniger drives in the lone run of the ballgame. Kyle Seager scoring after the double.
Mariners get just enough. They've evened up the series. A chance for a series win tomorrow behind the Kings. Some day baseball here in Chicago. Mariners postgame presented by Alaska Airlines starts right now. Val, Angie, it's all yours.